Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of WCM's Outdoor Hospitality Update. I'm Ben Quiggle, editor of Woodall's Campground Magazine. And of course, my esteemed co host is Mike Gast, a writer with RVtravel.com and former vice president of communications at Campgrounds of America. And he's coming to us from Hawaii again.
I'm also Ben's comic relief. So
yeah, he's my comic
whatever he
relief.
gets.
He keeps me in line, I guess. So our guests today are Joe and Rose Duemig from At My Community, co-founders of At My Community, and they are coming to us from Missouri. So the weather's pretty nice in Missouri.
It's
a good day, yeah.
And you guys have all the kids in the pool, or most of them, I guess. So
that's right.
Four out of the six.
4 out of 6.
Yes,
okay. And when do they all go back to school?
August 18th.
August 18th. Okay.
Circled on the calendar.
Yeah. Not counting down, but
I know my kids are eager to get back to school too, but we homeschool them, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, so I think they like the structure of school. So
well, this year we only have one at home during the week, and so that'll be something a little different for us.
Yeah,
but and we'll get into this in a bit. But we did the homeschooling. Well, Rose did the homeschooling of the kids last fall. So.
Yeah, well, you guys need the time away because your business is growing so much. So you're celebrating like 5 years this year. How fast have the 5 years gone, I guess? Does it seem like it's been 5 years?
Both, right? It seems extremely fast, but also it feels like we've been doing this forever. It's kind of that thing. It doesn't feel like 5 years has passed, but we definitely have learned enough that we feel like we put in our time for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rose. Sorry.
I was going to say it was July of 2017. So this is exactly our 5 year this month.
Yeah. And just describe a little bit about what you guys, what At My Community does for campground owners. So you guys create apps that they can customize, right?
Yeah. So we create individual apps for all of our campgrounds. And so everyone has their own app in the App Store. And it's about guest engagement and communication between the guest and the resort. So sending push notifications, getting updates on activities, getting updates, kind of just on everything, any information that you would ever need to get out to a camper.
Yeah, and I think, Joe, we've talked, Rose and us have all talked, I guess, about how you guys started the company, about how you went camping, right? And then you went up to a campground and you found out that they didn't have anything like this. So you're driving home and writing code and doing all this different stuff. And that's how the company was founded, right?
Exactly. So in 2017, we went to an RV resort up in South Dakota, beautiful resort. It was our first time being at an RV resort. So we didn't know that they even had activities and all of the offerings that they did. And we didn't get the handouts when we checked in because we were guests of a member there. And so we saw a kiddie train go by and we saw, we went up to the store twice and both times they were closed. And we're like, I wish we had something that we could check. And we went to get mini golf equipment and it was closed because there was a storm coming, but it was over the mountains. Yeah. And so we're like, it'd be really nice to be up to date all the time because we had a great time, but there's something was missing. And so we thought, well, it'd be nice. We have our phone on us all the time. Wouldn't it be nice just to get those instant alerts or the schedule right there? Because with our children, they also like to use the map for art or things like that. So on the way home, I drove and Joe started coding. We looked to see if there was anything like what we had in mind, and we couldn't find something that was as customizable and affordable as instead of going out and creating a whole custom app, from a developer. So that's where it came from. And Joe started coding, and we had a working prototype by October and signed our first customer in January. And so we were live for the following season with a few campgrounds.
So what is the affordability of this? What does a typical campground have to invest to get going with your service?
So we don't have an upfront investment. It's a yearly licensing fee. And so it depends on the size of the campground. So if it's over 250 sites, we charge $3,000 a year. 150 to 250 is $2,400 a year. And under 150 sites, it's $1,800 a year.
So is there a limit on how many people can be signed up at one time on a property?
No, there's no limit pretty much to anything. We don't have a limit on push notifications or, which that takes a cut out of text messaging, right? You pay per text message if you're a campground owner. And so these are unlimited. They don't cost any extra. We don't have a limit on your admins, the amount of training you get. We don't have a limit on number of users, downloads, or anything like that. And there's no added cost either.
Is it a one-way communication or a two-way? Can the campers contact the administration too?
Yes. So there's a few ways. The biggest is through custom forms. So you can create a form for anything you need, which can go as far as attaching one to your karaoke event so that they can actually put in their karaoke request right from their seat. They don't have to go right in front of the loudspeaker to put in their karaoke request. And it gets sent to the correct person, the DJ.
That case, the DJ. Mm-hmm.
And then they could also put in a report an issue. Almost every single one of our campgrounds has a maintenance request issue that goes and then gets sent out to the appropriate, whether it's housekeeping or maintenance or anything else like that. But these are all they're completely customizable. So our customers use them for things that we never would have imagined.
So how many campgrounds do you have signed up now?
We have 80 resorts that use the app. We also are doing some other things. So we have about 35 more apps outside of that, but they still use the same model.
So it's all web-based. They don't need to have any equipment on site?
Correct.
Just the laptop.
So, so every app is put in the App Store in Android and Apple. And then all of the updates, almost every single thing in the app except the App Store listing, the campground can change themselves. And so they can do that from a web-based interface.
Wow. Okay. Now I'm going to have a sip of coffee so Ben can talk.
It also updates in real time too, I was going to say.
Updates in real time?
So if I add an activity for 2:00 or in this case, 4:00 this afternoon, if Joe were to look at the activity schedule, it would show it. We don't have to wait for a syncing cycle or anything like that.
Okay. Does, I guess, man, now I lost my train of thought. So I don't know. Now I'm getting, it happens all the time. So whatever that was going to be, I'm not going to be there anymore.
We missed the question of the week.
So, is this something that's like more in demand now? Like, are you hearing from park owners that, they're really looking for something like this? Or is this still something that, owners consider kind of a side thing, I guess?
Well, it depends, right? So our campgrounds, the campgrounds that we service, that it is a need now. A lot of them started like, oh, well, maybe we'll try this out for a year, but it quickly became a need for the majority of them. We are definitely getting a lot more inbound traffic than when we started. Probably the first 3 years, most of the campgrounds that we serviced, we met at trade shows. As Ben would know, we see each other at trade shows quite often. But that was the majority of our business. Now, a lot more is coming to us. And so that obviously is showing that it is a more demand for campground owners.
And it's time,
This is a real on-site service. I mean, this isn't something that somebody 500 miles away can tap into. They have to be on the property.
No, they can download it and see, because you want them to download it as soon as they booked, right? So you want them to get excited for the trip. You can send them push notifications, beforehand. So there's really good reasons for them to get it beforehand. But the main purpose is for engagement while on site. Your website has a lot of the similar information on it, but when people are on site, they're not going to go and look up your website to go see what your rules are, or go look up your website to see what activities you have going on, because for one, very few campgrounds actually put that on their website to begin with, their daily activities. Yeah. But it's just there's more friction for them to get to it. And so that's why we do handouts, right? We do handouts, we do chalkboards, we do TV screens that have rotating images, and we do text messaging, right? And so we're not trying to necessarily replace all of that, but we have campers that have, or campgrounds that have replaced each one of those things and gotten rid of it because they're using the app.
Does anybody integrate it with their reservation system and use it so that people can see open sites or book a reservation?
So almost every single campground that links out to their online booking platform. So currently we don't integrate directly, but we go out to their online booking, which solves the majority of the problems. We were very surprised. We haven't really done the math throughout all of our campgrounds recently, but in 2019, when we looked at it, we were getting 190 bookings per campground per month, or links out to the online booking portal, I should say.
Have you guys ever thought about doing anything with like more with booking, I guess?
We definitely want to. So reading Woodalls, you'll see that more and more of the reservation providers are starting to add APIs. And so that's kind of what we've been waiting for, is there's been very limited access to that before. But now with, tapping into the OTAs and such, the campground reservation providers are starting to add that capability. And so we do actually plan on starting our first integration this fall.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Is that something that, campground owners are wanting more of, that integration and the capabilities?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Before it wasn't something that a campground owner would have that demand for. They just didn't realize, end to end, that entire guest experience and putting it together. But we've had more and more asks for that, be it if they can, if the guests can look at their current reservations, if they can, make purchases that go to the cart on file. There's a lot of different things that can be done rather than just booking a stay. If that's all that we were going to do with the integration, we would just kind of leave it as it is, and they could go out to the booking site. But because we can do so much more when we have that information, we really want to do those integrations.
All right. Now, Joe, do you work by yourself on all this with Rose, obviously, Rose, Joe, or do you guys have like a whole team of people too?
So for our first 4 years, it was Rose and I. So I wrote all of the code. Rose's background is in hospitality management. So she's worked at the Ritz-Carlton doing guest experience. And I'm obviously, my background is in coding, programming. And so it worked out really well. Now recently, we get busier, and as we get busier, I have less time to write code. So we have recently hired another developer to help work on those things. And we also have someone helping with sales.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And you guys, I think another aspect of the business too, is you guys do like communities too, like chambers of commerce and other things that you guys work with too. So that's kind of interesting. So
yeah, we actually had gotten a few campgrounds say, oh, you know what, it actually didn't fit for my personal campground, but I could really see this work for my community because we're in a heavy tourist destination. And so we ended up creating something that not only fit that campground, but the community that they were in. And it kind of evolved from there. Yeah,
definitely. Well,
I've been a member of an HOA, it seems like, for decades, in one place or another. And I could see this as being a huge boon if you've got the ability to talk to a closed group like that.
Yep. No, that's on our list on our website. We've never gone out and actually tried to get an HOA. We have had a few inquire, and we do put that on our website that would be a niche that would work out pretty well with the app. Just the customization is already there. But we like to focus on campgrounds. We like camping. We enjoy doing that with our family. And so that's kind of where we want to put our focus.
And sorry, with that, I'm going to jump in because, originally we had transient in mind. You want to be able to answer those questions that the staff is getting all the time over and over. Yeah. And as we've grown, we've seen how our clients have really taken it and fit it to their clientele. So our ownership resorts, they don't need to put the local dining place or the church listings. The people, they know where they want to go, but they might put a category of just the clubs and organizations. And so then it's everything about how to play pickleball, how to join pickleball, all of the things that are really important to that particular community. And even in there, they'll put a category for what services the other residents offer. And so, oh, I can go here for art lessons. I can go here for playing euchre or whatever.
Site
And so
253
they
is
have
haircuts.
really made it their niche. And then the transients just have a different take on it, or the mix. They'll have sections that are dedicated just to their long-term guests and then for their transient as well. And so we've liked how that evolution has gone just to fit each type of community.
So do you see multiple park owners interested in this, that they kind of want to tie 2 or 3 or 4 parks together?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We have a model to put multiple properties into one app, and they can, basically white label theirs and then have the sub campgrounds in there. And with each campground having its own unique personality and feel. And so we've done that in a few places.
All right. And one of the reasons we invited you on too was because you guys took like an epic like RVing trip as part of your company, last fall with the kids. Just tell us a little bit about what you did for the RVing trip and how you managed to squeeze 8 people into an RV. So.
Well, we decided that we wanted to get back on the road. We had taken a 3-month trip back in the summer of 2018, and we wanted to get back out, especially after COVID. And we knew that none of our customers, it would not be fair to them even to try to sit down and talk to them over the summer. And so we decided to do a fall trip and just basically piggyback on the end of everyone's season when things are starting to slow down. And so we left the middle of August and we covered the eastern half of the United States over 4 months. So we covered 25 states in that time. And we plotted it so that we could hit as many of our customers that are within that area as possible and actually sit down with them. And that's what was the best part. It was because we actually sat down and it was more on a personal level than just business, but give them our feedback as campers. What are we seeing? Hey, have you thought about doing this? Give them tips on, hey, did you know that the app could do this or that? And then get feedback from them on what they would like to see in the app and what aren't we doing yet that would add more value. And so, and then you can talk about fitting 8 people.
So we had traveled before in a 35-foot Georgetown bunkhouse. And that was fine, and that was our plan. And we went to buy a tow dolly so we could actually tow a van this time. And when we got in there, we saw a Thor Outlaw, which is a Class A toy hauler. We never planned on buying a newer RV, but we looked at it, thought about our trip. We were leaving in a week from that day, and thought, well, this makes life interesting. So we went and bought that. So it's a 40-foot Class A toy hauler. The reason that it works for us is it has 3 distinct sections, right? So I can work up in the front. We can have a child sleeping in the bedroom, and then Rose is doing schooling in the patio and the garage. So
I still don't know how that works on a rainy day, but I'll take your word for it. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, all of the children will fit just fine in that garage with the patio in.
Oh, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta ask. I poke fun at the manufacturers a lot, so I gotta ask: was there any mechanical problems that took you off the road? Did everything work good with the RV?
Nothing took us off the road. There's some things trying to stop us from getting level. That's for sure. We ran into a couple problems with our leveling system. We don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but we do have a random screw every time we set up. Rose will go and sweep the floor after we get everything done, and there's always a screw. We don't know where it comes from. It's always a new one.
Everybody's got a couple of screws in the kitchen.
Oh my gosh! So, yeah.
But overall,
it's great.
Yeah, overall, no major issues. Our Georgetown had a lot more. It was used a lot more than this one was when we bought it. And so it had almost all the kinks worked out. We never had an issue with that. But with with this one, a little more, but nothing major. Nothing major.
So, Joe, I'm interested, since with your background, what's your take on the current state of campground Wi-Fi as you traveled around? What's the quality like?
It's hit or miss. Obviously, it's getting better and better. But you just never know. I mean, we booked this trip, and we are not as diligent about picking campgrounds as we probably should be. But we picked a campground in New Jersey, and just knowing some of the things they offer, we assumed, oh, this is a resort for sure. They have Wi-Fi. So the day, like a week before I booked, I was reading some of the papers that they sent. They have no Wi-Fi, and we both have T-Mobile, and they have no T-Mobile service at all within like 20 miles. Luckily, we were there for the weekend, and it was a Halloween weekend, which is even better. We had a great time. It was a great experience. The kids thoroughly enjoyed
But
Halloween.
we
but we were on a commission
going into it, and it's just all about, if these services don't work, you got to tell people.
Yeah, I think that's what I've been hearing over we just did a Wi-Fi feature for WCM, and all the Wi-Fi people I talked with are just talking about setting those expectations, and some parks do a really great job with that, and other parks don't do as great of a job. Obviously, you got to allow the camper to make up their mind as to whether the Wi-Fi is going to work for them or not. So,
Joe, is your app Wi-Fi dependent at all?
No. So not at all. You have to download it from the App Store. So you obviously have to have, at some point in time, you have to have some communication, right? So via Wi-Fi or your cell service, you have to be able to get to the App Store to download it. Once you open it, it actually downloads all of the information that you need. Now, you will have to connect every once in a while to get any updates or to get push notifications. But push notifications work kind of like text, where it goes and it's waiting until you're available. And once you're available, you get a ding. And so, even with spotty cell service, the app works pretty good.
Did you both notice a lot of people RVing and working?
We pulled into Normandy Farms in early October. And we pulled in, got set up, and the kids started playing. Then 2 spots down from us, a fifth wheel pulls in, and they had 5 children.
And we
3 girls, our
we
children's
all
age.
asked to be next to the playground, of course.
And so they hop out. The girls kind of look at each other, size each other up, and like, oh, let's go play. And so they went to the playground. Well, then in between us, another family that they had just met. And both of those families were full timers. One for 4 years. And they have an Instagram called Wandering Canvas. And then the other one has been doing it for 2 years. And so we had a great time with them. And they're working full time.
Okay.
We met people constantly that have changed their lifestyle, and just like us saying, okay, we're going to go out for these 4 months. As long as there's internet, we can do our work. They're doing the same. And if they have to fly back home for a meeting or fly somewhere for a meeting, they just make those accommodations.
There you go, Ben. Pack up the Quiggle clan and hit the road.
We've talked about it, but we don't have an RV yet, so it's a little rough to do on the tent camping. I mean, 4 months with a tent, not something.
Yeah, but you're not far at all from like the Mecca of RVing. So,
Elkhart.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
might even have connections.
I have some connection. I don't know if they like me enough to give me an RV or not, but
there's so many of them in the lots up there, Ben. Just go. They'll never miss one.
Yeah, they'll charge Ben double.
Just roll out.
Charge me double. Some of them are missing parts, so just because you see them in the lots doesn't mean they're done. So
Exactly.
but what about on the homeschooling side? So we hear a lot about I know you guys homeschooled when you were on the road with your kids last fall. Did you? Obviously, I would imagine some of those other parents were homeschooling too.
Exactly. And it was great. So for me, one thing I loved is that, you can just incorporate everything into what you're learning. So we had a curriculum, but when we go out and do things, or even at the campground, you can incorporate that in. We were talking to Lona Ridge in Georgia, and they have a campground kind of homeschool. They want to reach out to those homeschooling RVing families and kind of build something around that. And so we were kind of hearing snippets of that as we went as well. But for me, it was great. We schooled in the morning, and the girls could enjoy the park in the afternoon. And or we were going to go into Boston or go into DC, or, we could still, it worked out really well.
Now, we hear about Wi-Fi. Obviously, that's important when you're working and you're homeschooling or road schooling, whatever they want to call it. There's other factors too, I guess, besides maybe just the Wi-Fi. Were there how did the RV parks and campgrounds kind of cater? Were there some that catered better to homeschoolers and workers than maybe others, I guess, as far as other amenities, like business centers, school areas where you can work, different things like that?
I know a few that we went to. Things are kind of we went in the fall, right? So things are quieter during the week versus the weekend. So I know a few places opened up their clubhouses. They opened up their pavilions. They left tables and chairs setting out for any families that were there and homeschooling to use their resources. We saw that a few times. I thought that was really great, and making those accommodations, because we might have a day where you just want to get out of the RV and you want to go. We did schooling one day on a hill, or, just mixing it up. And so we did see those type of accommodations made.
The thing is if you're doing it on the road, though, you have to be set up and ready to do it, boondocking, right? You have to be able to do that at any time, and every campground is going to be different. So some will help out with things like that. And then others wouldn't have it. So you have to be prepared. So it wasn't something I think we looked too hard for, but we were excited to find it in certain places that have a spot for that open. In terms of business center, it's something that, like, for me, when I'm working, I have my space. I'm not the type of person that would go and work from, another area that isn't for me.
So speaking of experience, I guess, did you notice a lot of new campers out there? Obviously, people that were inexperienced.
Yes. Yes, there were. And, we talked to a lot of them, because you can't help but get people's story and hear where they're from. And so we did all the time. This was their first time out, or this was their first season. And, we ask about campgrounds making accommodations for that. We saw that as well. And so Lake George, in their app, Lake George RV Park, they have a section for help, troubleshooting setup or electrical setup. Kelowna Ridge, to mention them again, they actually have QR codes on every pedestal. And you scan that, and it takes you to a website it takes you through very clearly the steps for plugging into their pedestals and how to set up.
Yeah, using their particular pedestals.
And we have talked to other campgrounds that have intro videos or things like that specifically to accommodate the new campers.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
I bleeped out there. Well, that's great. I guess I wanted to ask, you went on the road trip last fall, then you went, how long were you gone here recently? You went down to Florida.
We were gone for about a month.
The month of June.
Mm-hmm.
So, the gas prices have fluctuated quite a bit. Was there anything you noticed, going through RV parks and campgrounds this time around, as far as maybe traffic or anything to do with gas prices?
In terms of gas prices, I wouldn't. I mean, it's kind of hard to see that one just by moving around, right? So we saw the very, very wide array of gas prices, though. In 1 week we went from we were in Illinois at $5.10 a gallon, and we were in Georgia at $3.99 in the same day. So we saw the wild fluctuations in that, but for the most part, I mean, we tried booking at some campgrounds that were completely full. We ended up booking at quite a few newer campgrounds like Kelowna Ridge and Hilton Head National, which, both are under a year old. So, the word isn't out completely with them. They're beautiful. Both of them are beautiful resorts. Yeah, Island Oaks as well, in Jacksonville. And they have there's a lot of availability that's still out there, especially with those newer resorts. But older established ones, it was pretty hard to get into on a short term, because our trip kind of changed. It wasn't supposed to be a month. It was supposed to be about 2 weeks or so. We were going down for for the Florida Outdoor
Alabama.
Hospitality. Yeah, Florida and Alabama Outdoor Hospitality Conference. But we got to, I mean, one great thing is we got down to Endless Summer in Daytona, and it turned out we were not the only vendor there. So TJ from Campsite 360 and his children, which he has 3 little girls, our girls' age, got to play. And there were some people from Spot Tonight that were also there. So it was kind of fun for all of us to get together, you know, outside of the conference as well.
So one of the fallouts from what we're seeing right now in the economy, gas prices, everything else, is this move again to camp local, to camp within 50 miles from home, just a little bit closer to home to cut down the travel. Does that change the demand for your services? Is it even more crucial or less?
The same. You know, it's the same demand because, as Rose mentioned earlier, you know, we have the range and the gamut from completely transient customers to a mix of seasonal and overnight to 100 ownership or 100% seasonal. So, you know, when the people are close, they want communication about what's going on and when, because they can get there in an hour, right? And so we have a property in Florida that sends a daily recap every morning of what's going to be happening today. And they send that out as push notification, which is great. And that is great for those long-term stay type properties. And then your short-term properties just have a different, you know, they're trying to get out information differently. So
do you have campgrounds? Do you have campgrounds that are saying, "Hey, we've still got 5 great spots left for the weekend"? Or
absolutely, they'll send a push notification and they'll include a link to their online reservations right there. So all you have to do is click it and it goes right out. Or, hey, we have some openings. Here's our activity schedule for the weekend. So book now. Or, hey, just for the people with the app, book and you get a discount. You know, things like that. So.
Yeah. Did you notice as much traffic, you know, when you were traveling this spring, I guess? Were the parks filled and were you fighting traffic on the roads?
It was a mix, right? So,
well, I feel like on the highways, we saw so many RVs.
There's a lot of RVs.
There wasn't a decrease from last
I will say Atlanta was easier to get through than I recall before. For some reason, that Atlanta traffic, because we take that route semi-often. And that Atlantic traffic was lighter than I remember it being before. But otherwise, there was a lot of RVs out on the road. We went to 2 or 3 parks that were completely full. And then 2 or 3 parks, you know, the newer ones that were not. So,
well,
we have to preface it too. It is getting near, in the southern markets, it is getting near the end of their prime season, I think, in June. It's getting a little hot maybe. So,
exactly.
But we tried. There were we tried booking 2 or 3 fairly nice resorts in Georgia on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and they were full up. So,
which is good.
Yeah, it's really good.
I guess
go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I guess just from a personal standpoint, I'm just going to ask you, Joe and Rose. Here's one of those hard-hitting questions you warned me about, Joe. The gas prices, does that impact, you know, any stuff that you guys are going to do as a family? Does that like impact you?
Well, most of our travel is also for business, so it really doesn't, right? So we're doing it for a reason outside of just fun. If it were just for fun, it might, but I'm not positive. You know, one of the things I do say is if you have a large motorhome, you kind of bake some of that cost in, and so you know it goes up and it is pricier. Yeah. But you kind of already baked it in by purchasing a larger motorhome, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the next thing for the app? What's the business plan here? Is it going to be adding features to it, or is it just getting more campgrounds on?
We've always been adding features. So, I mean, right now we mentioned integrations into PMS systems. Right now, our developer is working on search. So searching throughout the app, so you don't have to kind of find what you're looking for by navigation. We have a list of features. So we're always adding new features and then adding on campgrounds. So we wouldn't have, if we were just focusing on adding people, we wouldn't, developer would not have been our first hire. That's for sure.
But we always are seeing a need. And so all of our customers can see their downloads, right? And so they can see what people, like how many times it's being used, to what are they clicking on throughout. And we see the gamut there as well. In Lakewood, they have had 20,000 downloads in a year. In Myrtle Beach, they are just really doing a great job of getting it out there and funneling everything through the app. Camp Dell's in Minnesota, you get a map when you check in, and otherwise everything's done through the app. And so they say, hey, don't miss this. It's a can't miss out kind of attitude. And so those type of properties are changing the expectations of the new campers as well. They want to know what they want to know right now. And if it's at 10 o'clock at night and the office is closed, well, they can still get that information. And so we're excited just to kind of change that perception as well.
So you've got a great presence on Facebook. It's a great page. Looks like you put a lot of effort into that. Are there other ways that tie the campgrounds that you have as customers together? Is it almost like a network of App My Community campgrounds? So
we actually, not private anymore, but we have a private Facebook group for our customers. I don't know if this is exactly what you're asking, but so we collaborate. And so, hey, have you thought about trying this with your app? Or we've seen this great use case. We want to share the success stories to build everybody up. And so, but otherwise, no, they're pretty standalone.
I think Rose, you highlight stuff on LinkedIn too. Not necessarily parks, but like different features and stuff from time to time. I forget what you posted about the other day.
Every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, I try to call out a feature and then show examples of how it's used by our clients. Or anytime I see something new, we have a customer in Arizona. So they have all long-term seasonal guests, right? And so what they've done is they have a calendar that's just the daily activities, all of the pickleball practices or the all of the regular scheduled things that happen every day. But then they have another calendar that's just the special events. And so that way it's easy for people to find what they're looking for. And so again, like that adaptation of making it fit their type of community. And I like seeing that so we can share it with others. And
to Mike's question, one of the things that we are about to add is kind of an asset catalog. So the different things that our campgrounds do, we can share with the other campgrounds and chambers as well. So we give all of our customers like badges to post on their website, a marketing image, QR codes, a one link. So all these things to help with downloads of the app. But we have one campground that a week before our stay, they send out an email. A week before. A week before the stay, only about the app. Make sure you download the app to enjoy your stay. And so those types of things that they're doing, we're making an asset catalog for other campgrounds or other customers to not have to reinvent the wheel for those things. Be a good idea.
So I came out of the campground business after a couple of decades, and it was always a big deal, especially in franchising, to track your renewal rate. What was the renewal rate of it? Have you guys been around long enough to start tracking? Do people always sign up again?
Almost always, yeah. Every company has churn, but typically we know if we're going to lose a customer beforehand because they probably never used it in the first place, and we know that because when we have a customer that starts up with us, sometimes they don't even start up to get live in the App Store, and so we try bothering them once a month or so and saying, hey, what can we do to help you get this out and out the door? Or it does go live and they're just not keeping it up to date, which, that happens. But we, of our 115 customers or so, I think we only have about 6 total that have not renewed.
Yeah.
So,
and then
it's pretty good. Myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then just another thing we wanted to highlight was you guys were recognized by Google, right? We Are a Player. Can you just explain that a little bit? yeah, what is that, I guess?
Well, I'll start with the start of it because it was kind of funny. We were actually on our trip, and I got an email from kind of a random email address. I don't even remember what domain it was, saying that they wanted to highlight us in a book that they were sending to Google executives. And I saw that, like, app developers get a ton of spam. I mean, a ton of spam. And so, so I'm like, this is probably nothing. And so I let it go. She emailed me one more again. Like, I still think this is a scam. Let it go. The next time she emailed us, CC'd some people from Google and gave us some more information. So I was like, we'll respond and see what this is. And so they were just looking at different types of developers. I mean, in their campaign, they have developers with one app that has 4 million downloads, but then they also have some that had 3,000 downloads, but was doing something unique. Yeah. For us, I think the uniqueness of our product, the white labeling aspect of it, and kind of how we're providing a bunch of apps out there, and the fact that when they came to us, we had about 50 or so, maybe a few more than 50 apps in the App Store, which is not very typical for a developer, especially to have a lot of them that have downloads. And so that's what kind of made them think about us.
Mm-hmm. And so, it started last October, and we found out that we were selected just in June. And so we were pretty excited, and now we're part of their campaign highlighting the app developers. We're part of Missouri, of course, and then they'll be spotlighting app developers over the next year.
Yeah, so it kind of started as something just for the Google Play team and the execs at Google. They were going to send them books, and it kind of evolved into them doing a campaign where they're highlighting 3 from each state, and they're showing different things. And we got a really nice book. It comes in a case very similar to like if you buy a Google product, it's wrapped, and it was just a really nice thing for us to be highlighted and chosen for that.
So how do you market? So how do you market the campgrounds? Is it a cold call? Do you just get a list of parks in the state and just start calling?
Well, we did that in the beginning. I did a lot of cold calling, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. When we were in 2018, our first summer, we were brand new, and so to us, it was just getting people familiar with us. And so in that 3 months, I visited 313 resorts, just going in, introducing myself, and here's a card about us. And it worked sometimes, and sometimes it didn't. But it was just kind of our boots on the ground kind of campaign. And now, as we've come this far, it's a lot through trade shows, social media, referrals, and things of that nature over the cold calls.
So did the pandemic slow you down at all?
Actually, no. We were able to really promote that touchless experience without sacrificing the guest experience, the customer service aspect. And so many of our customers did contactless check-in. They created forms on the app. They even created scavenger hunts. Saugeen Springs in Ontario created a get to know your neighbor through the app type of thing. So everybody was social distancing. There were fun facts about their neighbors, and they really had a good time. So it actually helped.
And one of the other things we did is we did the app for Camping Ontario Association. So it's the Provincial Association for Private Campgrounds in Ontario. And they had a certain form that every campground needed to have every guest fill out as soon as they enter the campground.
It's a screening form.
They had a COVID screening form. And so we were already doing their app, which what made it great is we could go in and just any of the campgrounds that wanted to use that, they didn't have to upgrade or pay us anything. We would go ahead and put that form out there, and they could do it through the app for free. And so it was a way that we could just help out with that to whoever needed it.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing how much you guys have grown. So, when are you going to hit the 1,000 number here in like the next year? Are you guys
1,000 customers?
Yeah.
Well, after this, yeah.
Well, I will say we've doubled about every year. So in that case, we probably have about 3 years.
Well,
3 or 4 years.
So well, that's awesome. Great that you guys are doing so well. I know it's definitely a service a lot of campground owners need, especially the larger resorts and some of these huge water parks and stuff that people keep building. It's amazing some of the larger parks these developers are building now. So, but anyways, I think we should probably get wrapping this up. The road tripping with the tactics, they sent a comment and they said they need to get me an RV. So
I thought they were offering you theirs.
Yeah, they're offering me mine.
I would have known I could have gotten you in Georgetown.
So, but we'll see how the RV thing goes for me. We're getting closer, but it's still tense for right now. So, but thanks, Joe and Rose, for coming on, and I'm sure I'll see you guys at conferences in the fall again, and maybe Mike will be back to the mainland, and he'll be at conferences, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Maybe.
Sometime next year we'll journey back in, but and we'll run into you.
That'll be great.
So thanks everyone for watching, and we hope everyone has a great rest of the week.
Thanks,
Thanks for
guys.
having us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye.